Oh, that's cold out. The GARMIN Dash Cam Mini 2. It's been 6 months from the hottest days of summer to the chilliest nights in our Canadian winter. Let's get together, I'll tell you how it's performed. Welcome back to GP Outdoors. I know a lot of you have been waiting for this review, and I wanted to put a special shout out to one of our subscribers named Andy, who has been very polite and respectfully reminding me gently every month or so that he's been waiting to see how this GARMIN Dash Cam Mini 2 is performed. But as you know, I don't like doing reviews or providing an opinion unless I've given it a good chance to see how it performs over a period of time. It's been 6 months. The dash cam has been sitting out in the hottest days of summer here in Ontario, and it's also been sitting out in that truck in the coldest heart of our Canadian winter. Let me fill you in. I'm going to go through some of the performance, what I found about the camera. I also want to talk about the polarized filter, which is an option you can get for the camera. I also want to touch on the performance of the Garmin Drive app on the phone. And I'll probably mention the SIMPLEUSB from Dongar Technologies, which I installed with the camera, which you can find in that first video. Hope you've got a few minutes, and I hope you'll stick around. So let's set the stage before I get into the performance of the various aspects of this GARMIN Dash Cam Mini 2. First thing I think of importance, I installed it in my Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road pickup truck. It's important because the off-road truck is in fact just that. It's an off-road vehicle. It has Bilstein suspension, and I can assure you, whether you're driving up and down through the undulations throughout the forest up at the cabin, or you're down on a highway road here, you feel every single bump. You'll see why that's important shortly. The second thing of importance is that the truck has never seen the inside of a garage. It sits outside 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So in the steaming heat of plus 30-degree temperatures here in the summer, or the frigid cold of our Canadian winters, less than negative 30 degrees Celsius, that Dash Cam Mini experiences it all 24 hours a day, every day of the year. Let's get into the performance. Resolution. The dash cam is 1080p resolution. It's not a 4K model. I've never tested a 4K model, but based on price and what I thought might be my needs in other reviews, I purchased the Dash Cam Mini 2, even though it was a 1080p. It's still high definition, and as you can see, it's still very, very clear quality. One thing I have noticed, and I'm not sure it would make a difference with the 4K, is that it's difficult to see license plate numbers unless they're about 10 to 15 feet in front of you. Any further than that, and unless you dump it to the computer and zoom in and blow it up, you won't normally see in the raw footage, you won't be able to make out the characters on the license plate. Not a big deal because I do dump it to the computer, but what I have found out over for the testing over the last 6 months is that a lot of people have really old, beaten up, rusted, faded license plates. And a lot of people just have really filthy, dirty cars. So I don't think a 4K camera is going to help you much. At the end of the day, I bought the camera so I can see incidents, or in the event that there's an incident in front of me. And as you can see from the footage that I'm putting throughout this video and right now, the resolution is very clear and very crisp. I don't think I need 4K for my purpose. Camera has a number of features which I think are nice to have. I haven't really found a useful or practical need for voice command, for example, or some of the features of the Drive app, such as the Vault. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it is nice to have. You want to turn audio on so you can record what's happening in the car. You can push a button. If you want to hard record a segment of video, which we'll talk about in a minute, you push a button, or in either case, you can just use voice commands. And you don't have to yell or raise your voice. Speaking in a normal voice, as soon as you say, "Okay, Garmin," it'll beep to let you know it's heard it. As soon as you issue the voice command, it'll beep a few times to let you know it's engaging that command. Very user-friendly, very responsive. However, practically, don't really have a need for it other than the times I've used it for the purpose of making these reviews. Let's talk about the camera recording. As you may recall from the first video, as soon as you start your truck, the camera immediately engages and it records the entire time it has power connected to it. And in our case, as you know, I used the SIMPLEUSB from Dongar, so it doesn't have an always power on. It powers on through the accessory, or once the truck is on, turn the truck off and it cuts power to the camera, which is fine for my needs. Here's why this is important. If you'll recall from the first video, I went out and bought myself a 64 gigabyte mini SD card because I thought, not having a dash cam before, that I was going to need a lot of recording space because I didn't want to have to empty that card every day or every two. At the end of the day, that was a bad decision. If you are looking at any type of a dash cam, such as the GARMIN Mini, I don't think you need anything bigger than an 8 gigabyte card. Let me explain why. In the case of the GARMIN Dash Cam Mini 2, it constantly records. It never stops recording. And I'm going to describe it as two types of recordings. There's what I call a soft recording and there's a hard recording. Everything gets recorded to the SD card, the memory card, so that's great. It records in 1 minute increments, which is also really useful because that way you don't have big, huge data files in one file. However, when you have 64 gigabytes of memory, it records for weeks at a time before it fills the card and then continues to record and deletes the oldest recording. That feature functionality is excellent because you in theory never have to remove the card unless you want to see something on your computer. However, when it's 64 gigabytes, you literally have a huge, massive set of files to dump from the SD card to your computer. And at the end of the day, what I found is that if an incident occurred, or an accident for that matter, and I wanted a recording, I wouldn't wait weeks and weeks to pull it off the card. I'd pull it off that night when I got home, or possibly earlier. So an 8 gigabyte card is more than enough storage in my opinion. The difference between a soft and what I call a hard recording is that, as I mentioned, once the card fills up, the dash cam will continue to record and it automatically will delete the oldest recordings off the card. So it always continues forward. In the event that you want it to hard record or to record something that you don't want erased, that's what I call a hard record. That's when you either push the button or you say, "Okay, Garmin, record video." And it will immediately consider that a hard recording, and that way that recording never leaves the SD card or never gets overwritten. One of the nice features about the hard recording is that the functionality is such that if you ask it or tell it to record, it will start the recording 15 seconds before you told it to, and it will run for 15 seconds afterward. Okay, Garmin, save video. Because in theory, if an incident occurred and you said, "Hey Garmin," or "Okay Garmin, record video," it's smart enough to know that if you're telling it now, that means the incident probably already happened. So it backs up the recording for you so you've got that full 30 seconds, even prior to when you've told it to. Excellent feature. I've tested it a few times. I haven't really needed it, again, practically. But in the event that an incident occurred, I know it's already recorded to the card and I would most likely just pull it off the card. But a nice feature. Another aspect of this 1080p resolution is the camera's ability to stabilize the picture, and it does an excellent job. As you can see, I'm running that off-road through the forest, down those dirt roads, up and down inclines, and I'm also on highways. But it does an excellent job of maintaining a stable picture despite all the bumps that that pickup's putting it through. I would definitely, again, give that 2 thumbs up. Really nice stabilization feature, and it works great. When you open the box, you'll find that Garmin gives you 2 mounts for the camera with a sticky adhesive on one side. Kind of a very simple looking little mount, but it actually works perfectly. It's never once come off the window despite how hot or how cold it gets outside. Once you set the camera and you pivot it to the position you want, it has never once been bumped or moved despite the rocky drive of that TRD. It always stays where I've set it. Very effective, works great. As you know, it has an audio function. It can record what's going on in the car. It is very clear, it's very crisp. As long as your radio is not up too loud, as I mentioned, the unit will always hear your voice command, and it does a good job, and it's got good clear audio resolution on the recordings. However, practically, not sure when I'd ever want to record audio inside the car. However, I'd imagine if you run a livery or a taxi service, or you're a driver of some sort, that's probably the application that it's useful for. So, is it reliable? It is 100% reliable, and it records reliably every time, with some exception. Not a fault of the camera. The camera works as engineered and as stated, but the operating temperature of the camera is negative 20 degrees Celsius up to positive 60 degrees Celsius. And I believe that's about 4 degrees Fahrenheit up to about 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And it does work. One of the reasons I waited so long to do this review is I wanted to get right into the heart of winter. About a week and a half ago, I showed you the damage to the front right side of my pickup truck because I slid off the road in the forest, or the driveway in the forest, and went into some trees. That night, it was well below negative 30 degrees out, and I'd only driven the truck for about 5 to 7 minutes. It's not designed to work in negative 30 degrees temperatures, but here's what did happen to me. Take a look. This is a shot from that evening. It was less than negative 30 degrees out. I was on my way back to the cabin. The driveway was super icy, and the camera did not record any segments to the SD card that night, even though it was a 5 to 7 minute drive, except what you see here. One of the features of this Dash Cam Mini 2 is that it has what they call incident detection. If the camera is jarred too harshly, it assumes that an incident has occurred, and it automatically makes a hard recording. In other words, 15 seconds before it got jarred until 30 seconds after. Despite the fact that the camera never recorded anything else through that whole 5 to 7 minute drive, it somehow, in less than negative 30 degree temperatures, detected the incident, as in me hitting the tree, and recorded that 30-second segment, but nothing else. I have to be honest, I was pretty impressed. Let's talk about this polarized filter option. It's an option that you can get for your Dash Cam Mini 2. Looks like this, and it's basically, in simple terms, or at least in my view, it's like a pair of sunglasses that you put over the lens of the dash cam. I picked it up just for the sake of this review and to test it. It's about $47 shipped from the West. It was very hard to find anybody that had one in stock or in fact carried this filter, but I did find one, and I've tested it out several times. As you can see above, what it does is it dampens, I guess, the brightness or a lot of sun. So you've got kind of a side-by-side of what it looks like in this shot above me. And you can also see the effect now on an overcast day. And now here's a shot of me driving down the road late at night. And in fact, if you look up at the top of the screen in the middle, you'll see there's lightning in the sky. But you'll notice that it's kind of like wearing sunglasses at night. It dampens or darkens the entire picture except for the headlights. And you'll also notice that the lightning is very difficult to see, although it was very bright for me in my eyes when I saw it that night. So does it work? Yeah, it does. Kind of dims, or as I said, it's like putting sunglasses on the lens. I don't like sunglasses on the lens, and I haven't really been in too many positions where the glare from the sun is so bright that it blinds the shot from the dash cam. It still sees very clearly. Is there a little bit of brilliance or a little too much sometimes, depending on where you're turned to the sun? Absolutely. But I can always see in front of me. And the shots that I get off the dash cam, you can always see the cars or the traffic in front of you. So for me, I think it's not something that I'd ever use again. I used it several times just for the purpose of this review, but I don't think it's worth spending the $47 unless you're trying to use the footage from the camera for some professional means or some professional purposes. But at least you've got a chance to see it, and you can decide for yourself whether it's worth the $47 or not. The SIMPLEUSB from Dongar Technologies. As you know, in that first video, I focused on the installation and how simple and easy it was. Unless you need a constant power source to your dash cam to use the functionality, the parking functionality, I'd highly recommend that the $60 you'll spend on the SIMPLEUSB connection, assuming you have a pin connector in the back of your rear view mirror, absolutely worth every dime. Works great. I've not had a single problem with it in 6 months, and it's hidden behind my rear view. I don't see it. It's not hanging down. It's firm. It's connected, and it made the installation of this Dash Cam Mini 2 so simple and so quick. Worth every dime. Very happy with the product out of the US. Let's talk about the Garmin Drive app. Personally or practically, I don't think I would ever use this app unless I had an incident that occurred, i.e. an accident, law enforcement was on scene, and I wanted to be able to access the video right away to show them what the camera picked up. I think that's the primary purpose or the primary benefit of this app. And it does in fact work. As you know, it connects to the camera in the truck through Bluetooth, and if you're at home, you can also connect through your Wi-Fi. But whether you're out on the side of the road or you're 100 miles from home, as long as the truck is running and the camera is turned on, you can go on your Garmin Drive app, pull it up, and it will retrieve all of the recordings that you have on the SD card, and you can view them. It also, as you know, has what they call a vault service. They have a basic limited service that's a cloud-based service, or you can pay money every month to get more access to that cloud. I always take anything free, and I have the vault service, but I've never once used it because I've had no need to use it. Challenge with this app, although I know it was the same issues that were identified in various reviews on the Dash Cam Mini 1, the very initial Dash Cam Mini that came out, it doesn't seem like they've made many improvements. The app takes a very, very long time to load or to connect. And in fact, several times when you try to connect, it'll tell you it's partially connected, but it's not fully connected. So you have to close the app down, reopen it again, and try to connect to the dash cam. When it does eventually connect, you are able to see all of the footage very clearly, and you can play it back on the phone in real time. But it takes very, very, very long periods of time to load the film, which again is another reason why I wouldn't ever practically use it. If I wanted to see what was on the SD card, I'd wait till I got home, pull the card out, and put it in my computer and take a look at it on the large screen. However, I do have to say that in the event there is an incident, having the ability to open that app, and despite how long it takes to download that footage, to be able to play it in real time, perhaps for an officer beside you or for first responders on the scene, I think that's a big benefit. But in my view, after the review and the research I did, I think it's properly priced where it's at for a 1080p camera, especially given its size. I like the fact that it's very innocuous behind the rear view mirror, and it works exactly as it says it would work. It's got a lot of nice features in it that I think may be beneficial to you depending on the use or the purpose as to why you want a dash cam in the first place. For me, practically, I don't ever record audio. I don't very seldom ever give it a voice command to record either. I just allow it to run, because the purpose of having it for me was to ensure that I had a record in the event that there's an incident that occurs to me or my truck, or perhaps to others that are in front of me. But I think depending on the reason for your use, those features would come in handy. The bottom line is they all work. The incident detection works great. Really shocked that it worked in the cold weather that late that night. But again, camera is very reliable, turns on every time you start the truck, turns off, and in my view has very good resolution and quality picture, especially for the price. Thanks very much for sticking around with me today. I hope you found it a benefit or informative or helpful if you are looking for a dash cam for your vehicle. Have a wonderful week with your families. Please be kind to one another. I'm Gord Potter, and you've been watching GP Outdoors. Cheers.